Thank you very much, guys, and as promised, we have for you a show match right here between two absolutely fantastic players. This guy should be known to all of you. He is in the red trunks, he is playing Protoss to the northeast of this, the Daybreak. It is Grubby versus his opponent, an up-and-comer, and a great one at that. Hailing from Team Infinity 7 in the blue trunks playing Zerg to the southwest, it's Crazymoving.
That's right, Crazymoving, didn't have the most successful year in Wings of Liberty. He had a decent mid-level, but within Heart of the Swarm right now, he's like top 50 Grandmasters. He's one of the highest ranked Zerg players, which is why he's obviously, had this chance to play against Grubby. And I'm expecting a great game for both of these guys.
I certainly think so, honestly, and I would expect Grubby to really pull out all the stops for this, as he does all the time. I've had the pleasure to watch his ladder stream regularly, and he never messes around. He plays every game like it's the final of DreamHack, or it's Code S final, or anything along those lines. He knows what he's doing, and he plays his heart out. He has great control. He has absolutely crisp builds already, which is very surprising in HOTS, because we're seeing a lot of players experiment with different builds and not really get the ideas down yet. Maybe they've formed this notion of what they think the build should be, but they haven't practiced it down to a T yet. Grubby, on the other hand, he has got his builds nailed. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, that's right, and he's had the opportunity to display that skill already. He's played in show matches, he's played in a couple of beta tournaments as well, and he's been doing really, really well. And he said in a pre-interview before Heart of the Swarm was actually, ready to play and ready for him to play, that he thinks this could be his game for the year 2013. So a lot of Grubby fans, a lot of non-Grubby fans are, willing to follow him very, very closely. And, well, that's what we're doing here in this game.
Yep, I'm following closely here to watch him put down his Nexus after the pylon there. That means that he will... I don't know, there's times when the Protoss players have actually put down gateways instead of forges, especially in Heart of the Swarm. It's going to be a forge this time around, but it's not unknown to see a gateway go down instead. So he'll be able to put that cannon down, and he'll be able to start setting up his defense. We did see a 14 spawning pool there from Crazymoving. He did only produce 4 lings out of it, so he's not going to get hyper-aggressive. He's not delaying the queen or anything along those lines, and he'll tickle the front just to make sure that Grubby is kept honest, that he's got to actually wall off.
Yeah, that's right, and Grubby just opening up with a very normal Wings of Liberty build. If you watch Wings of Liberty tournaments, you're going to know this build. So it's just Nexus, Forge, Gateway, Cannon straight behind that. A very normal opening, and as you said, there's only 4 lings out. He's not looking to super pressure really. He'll scout, just as you said, keep Grubby honest, and behind it just look to take his 3rd base eventually here, because as Protoss takes a 2nd, you're taking a 3rd.
Indeed, and you'll notice the Crazymoving actually has his lings on an attack move path, whereby they're just checking to make sure there's no probes, there's no sneaky pylons around the place that could interfere with this 3rd base. The probe scout actually comes in at just the right time and confirms, yes, the hatchery came down at the time that I expected. And that, as they say, was that Grubby forced to build a 2nd gateway and then cancel to make sure those lings couldn't get in there. But again, not really too big a deal. There were only 3 lings. He would have maybe got 1 through. He would have gotten that scouting information that Grubby didn't want him to get, so it makes sense to do that. And we're probably going to enter, at least for the next couple of minutes, a pretty passive Protoss versus Zerg. But what do you expect to come out from Grubby into the mid-game here?
In Heart of the Swarm, anything is possible. With the new changes that are coming to Heart of the Swarm, the Dark Shrine being cheaper, Stargate openings being very viable at the moment, I'm feeling a Stargate play, actually, from anything from Grubby. It's a nice big map. Phoenix is very, very fast. I'm not too sure if he'll dibble-dabble into the Oracles yet, a new unit in Heart of the Swarm, but I'm definitely feeling that if he is going to open Stargate, we are going to see Phoenixes for a bit of harassment, because with his build going Nexus first and sitting back without really any tech or units, the only viable harassment he's going to have to slow down Zerg from exploding with their economy is going to be the Phoenix. But as I say that, the robotics facility does come down, so it's not going to be the option for him to harass, but more so for scouting, as we'll see an Observer come out really, really early.
The crazy thing is that Crazymoving has just started his extractors at 45 supply. He has been gasless this entire time. He's only had 2 queens as well, so he's been doing nothing but powering drones for the last few minutes.
That's right, man. He's up to 37 right now. 8 drones were about to pop, so he's going to be pushing good 45. Couldn't go quite too fast to 75. 45 drones, and he will continue to do so. He, on the natural of Grubby, he's actually scouted Grubby, taking double gases on the natural here. So that tells him that Grubby is willing to use gas defensively, and not really for a super fast rush here. With all 4 gases being taken, that's usually a sign for you to continue to drone a little bit further as well.
Grubby taking a little bit of a risk just to poke out there with that sentry. Not really 100% sure as to how many lings his opponent had. Would have been possible that sentry would have got surrounded, but honestly, since there's been no gas, there's also been no speed. Grubby hasn't been 100% sure of that, but it seems like he may have run into Crazymoving before, and he does have an idea as to what Crazymoving likes to do.
Yeah, I mean, Crazymoving is such a good macro Zerg player. We can already see it in this game. He's up to 55 drones. He's building 4 more. So he's going to be roughly sitting at around 60 drones, which will give him a really good, solid income to start to produce units, which he'll do very, very shortly here. Meanwhile, though, Grubby is going for double Immortals. We may see a 3rd one behind him. And with all the gateways coming down inside his main base, he's about to move across the map, and he's about to be aggressive.
This is a huge push that he's gearing up for here, this big 2-base play, and what I'm hearing a lot of from Protoss in Heart of the Swarm is 2-base all-in, very, very powerful, but this isn't really a 2-base all-in, as it were. I mean, Grubby can definitely transition out of this. He's still building probes. He is looking for one big timing to do a huge amount of damage to Crazymoving, and the question is, can Crazymoving hold on? He has been powering nothing but drones for a while, but now he's starting to produce roaches. He's working on his upgrades here. He's getting out a lot of lings too.
Yeah, and Crazymoving really hasn't made too many mistakes in this game. For example, supply block. But one thing to remember is that Grubby does have the Mothership Core moving out, or will do, with his army in conjunction very shortly. And even if things go wrong, he has the new ability, Recall, early on in the game, that's 100 energy from the Mothership Core, and could just escape back to his Nexus and then fall back on an expansion if need be. But that's if something goes wrong. If it doesn't, then he could just take the win here and right now.
Well, Grubby lost a pylon there, which was not ideal, so his backup pylon is gone. He's relying on this single pylon for this aggression here. The lings are already coming in before the warp in. There is a lot of sentry energy, however, so that is something that Crazymoving is going to want to watch for. Now, he was aware that this aggression was coming because he did scout with his Overseer, and he saw all of those gateways in the base, and that is only indicative of one thing, a big 2-base timing push in order to do a huge amount of damage. Grubby is being delayed at the moment by Crazymoving, who is building spine crawlers, who is trying to get plus roach speed out and that plus range damage as well, and he has a huge amount of Zerglings, 41 already, with a decent amount of creep outside of his base. So this is going to be an interesting engagement here. Crazymoving posturing, and Grubby wants to go in there, baits a couple of force fields. Nice move there by Crazymoving.
But Grubby does have a Twilight Council behind this, which that actually signifies he's going to continue upgrading and continue building units behind it, and he will take a 3rd base shortly. So yes, this is not a super 2-base all-in. He has a backup plan. The 3rd Nexus has been planted down now, and like I said, if things get too rough, he can still recall out of here.
That's absolutely true. He's got the Observer with it as well, which means he's getting a huge amount of creep tumors out there. But the lings get into the center and do a lot of damage here, way, way more than they should have in this situation. And the recall's going on. Grubby realizes this is absolutely suicidal, and he jumps right back out again. But he takes some damage. I mean, Crazymoving now with a 40 supply lead over Grubby.
That's right, you know, Grubby did go in there. He didn't get a fast 3rd in this base, and now Crazymoving has a lot of units where he can now pressure the later 3rd of Grubby. And if this 3rd goes down, Grubby's going to fall back on 2-base, and that's not where he wants to be against an opponent who's pushing over 60 drones again now.
Absolutely not. That is really unfortunate for Grubby. He's now pushed back to that 3rd. And yeah, he absolutely will be able to mine, but Crazymoving can take his 4th. He's already spreading creep up in that direction to make sure that can happen. All credit to Grubby. He's kept 60 probes versus 60 drones here, but the drone production can now start again in earnest simply because of the size of Crazymoving's army, the fact that he's cleaned up all the proxy pylons on his side of the map. So rolling across a map like Daybreak does take some time, and of course Grubby wants to recharge this Mothership Core, make sure the shields and the energy on the sentries are back up to full here, and Crazymoving is just going to sit in the middle of the map with his big Ling and Roach force and say, come at me, let's see what you can do.
That's right. But Grubby doesn't seem to be posturing aggressive at the moment. He, like you said, is saving up energy again on his mothership core. He's already got 100, which will be used for the photon overcharge if something does come. And with the hallucinated Phoenix moving out, seeing all the units in the middle by the Xel'Naga tower here, Grubby's going to set up defensively because that army's quite scary out in the open, but in a confined area where force fields can be utilized, Grubby's probably safe.
I would certainly think so. Attacking the third here is always a little bit dodgy simply because the choke is fairly narrow. It's not the narrowest, certainly, and the way that Grubby's built his base is very, very close to his chest. It's designed specifically to protect his mineral line from run-bys, but it doesn't mean it won't deflect a big army push because he's not utilizing this choke here. But he can use sentry force fields and cut the army in half quite effectively. Crazymoving knows this. He is building Hydralisks. He's going up to Hive. He's working on +2 missile attack, and he's getting the muscular augments, which is the speed upgrade for Hydralisks. Now, Roach Hydra is very, very potent against an army that doesn't have Colossus, which is exactly what Grubby's got, and he's actually gone for Storm here. He's gonna try and take a 4th at the front here.
Yeah, this can be very dangerous here. With Storm, it makes it easier, but Storm isn't ready yet. Good force fields from Grubby do keep these units in. I think we're gonna see pretty early Vipers in this game just because of the way that this is working out with Hydras. Immortals, Colossus, anything get dragged in by the Vipers with their Abduct's ability here, and I think that's what he's leaning for, but I don't think he really knows the lack of Colossus in this game because usually Protoss, as you say, at this point would have Colossus, but Grubby going Storm, that's going to give him such a good advantage because the High Templar can feed back the Vipers immediately and bring them down once they use their consumption ability to gain energy from his own structures.
That's absolutely true, and once that happens, things like Blinding Cloud come into play, which is very effective, certainly against the Immortals. I mean, honestly, this army doesn't have a huge amount of range damage. There's a lot of Zealots in it, which is great. This is like almost like Grubby has prepared against the possibility of Blinding Cloud. Colossus are shut down very hard by Vipers due to Abduct and due to Blinding Cloud. Both of those abilities hit them really hard, but of course, doesn't affect Storm, doesn't affect Zealots. So this is not a bad army at all to deal with a mass Viper composition. And the transfer is caught there by Crazymoving, who gets several probe kills. Warp Prism is spotted by Crazymoving as well. That's another little win. This game is starting to get a little bit wild. We've got a Ling run by that's blocked off there by Grubby. The cannons should be enough to clean that up. We've got double Stargate and 6 more gateways coming down behind this. This is already going into super tech mode. We're going to see some crazy transitions coming out of here.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to see Void Rays coming out. We're going to see the Fleet Beacon come down, and even a Dark Shrine's just been planted on. So that's going to be Grubby's harassment. He's going to use Warp Prisms. He's got 2 High Templar in that Warp Prism down at the south here, so he's definitely looking to see if he can land some damage here to Crazymoving.
Oh, the Abduct on the Warp Prism to actually pull it away. A feedback could come in fact, a feedback does, and then an immediate morph to Archon, but obviously that drop was negated pretty well. I would think he's gonna... Wow, Crazymoving's kind of back and forth here, because of course this was just a ruse to allow Grubby's army to get into position here, which is exactly what it's gonna do. That Warp Prism's gonna go down. Big Storm coming down. Ling's taking huge damage. Third Storm kind of whiffs there. Doesn't really hit what it needs to. In the meantime, it looks like the harassment in Crazymoving's base has been dealt with. That Archon's been eliminated. And once again, Crazymoving essentially deflects Grubby's aggression and is now on 5 bases.
Yeah, he's on 5 bases, having taken the top left hatchery. But right now, he's got a lot of upgrades coming in. So his army's not at the full strength yet. Once these upgrades complete in the production tab, that's when he's going to be at his strongest here. But that's going to take a little bit of time here. And that's going to allow Grubby to get down the Fleet Beacon to continue to harass. With the Dark Shrine now finishing up, DTs, Dark Templar, and Zealots will start to harass the main base, and also to the top left base. That new 5th base is going to be under harassment very shortly once Grubby lets loose.
That's very true, and Crazymoving's starting to bank, as is his opponent. 4,000 minerals in the bank right here, along with 1,200 gas here for Crazymoving. He could look to remax on Roaches. He could look to get a lot more Hydralisks out, but we have to say that even though Crazymoving has deflected this harassment and aggression, he's not done any damage of his own. This 5th base coming down for Grubby is well defended. Crazymoving looking to flank around, and that's going to be spotted by the Zealots at the bottom, which will be very easily replaced. Grubby now making moves onto the middle base here. Can he set up this position? Up goes the shield. Oracle's now in position as well. This is about to get very, very crazy indeed. Feedback's coming down en masse. Huge storm drops as well, and the Roaches are segmented off very nicely by the force field. Huge amount of feedback going down. There's the abducts to drag those Immortals out of position, and of course they all get eliminated as well, and Grubby takes a huge hit in that particular engagement, and we're seeing a big remax on Ultralisks here for Crazymoving.
Yeah, and now that his upgrades are completing, this is looking pretty good for Crazymoving. He did lose an expansion at the top left there as well, which is going to slow his income down, but Grubby's weak. He's going to lose the middle. He uses the Photon Overcharge on the Nexus to try and keep it alive. Can he warp in some units to defend it? Dark Templars are coming in, but he just doesn't have the numbers, having lost that army.
Absolutely not. Against +3 ranged units with Roach Hydralisk, the amount of damage output here from Crazymoving's force is absurd. And without the Colossus, how do you properly engage against Hydralisks? The answer is, generally speaking, you don't. With the range and the speed upgrades, it's very difficult. There's big Zealot run-bys coming in. Unfortunately for those Zealots, Ultralisks now no longer have plus against armor. They're just flat-out lethal. They will destroy huge amounts of Zealots without any problems whatsoever. As you can see, barely any damage done here. Crazymoving moving into a defensive position here, and he has no problems. Grubby loses that front base. He's still on 4 bases. He still has a good economy and a good bank and a lot of gateways backing this up. So it's definitely not lost here for Grubby. This game is still all to play for. With the DTs and the Tempests and the Void Rays coming in, it's going to be very difficult for Crazymoving to anticipate what Grubby's about to throw at him.
That's right, and it's really good news for Grubby that he was able to see the Ultralisk switch so early on before they complete their full upgrades, as we see 3-3 on the way for them. That means Grubby can start to produce units that will be good against Ultralisks, such as Immortals, such as Void Rays. So he's adjusting his composition a little bit away now from the Storms, from the High Templars, and looking to build a better, stronger army.
Grubby goes in right there. There's the Abduct once again. Warp Prism gets absolutely obliterated, and Grubby's going to try and take that Spore Crawler out, but there are like 3 Overseers, so unfortunately that harass was completely shut down. Crazymoving's defense has been pretty much immaculate this entire game. Grubby is staying in the game on the virtue of just having a huge amount of money and 4 bases, because while Crazymoving's been playing hyper defensively, he hasn't actually been able to attack, and taking out that middle base has been the only significant move that Crazymoving has done so far, and now he's going to go right in once again. He wants that down. There are a couple of Tempests, but it's going to take about 5 years for the Tempest to actually kill an Ultralisk. And here comes this big engagement. Storm goes down right in the center. These Storms are massive. The Hydras are getting caught in this. That is a big deal indeed. Feedbacks go down on the Vipers as well. The Immortals are carving their way through this Ultralisk force, and here come the Void Rays as well. And this army has taken significant losses. Grubby's still having to warp in. He's probably going to lose this middle base again by the looks of it. Down it goes. But Crazymoving took significant losses for the first time this game. Those units are expensive, and Grubby engaged pretty efficiently there.
Yeah, I think he run in with about 10 or more Ultralisks there and came out with just a handful of them. The Void Rays did maximum amounts of damage with their new Prismatic alignment, which does more damage versus armored. It's +10 versus armored, including the +6 damage it does. So a lot of damage there being outputted. And, well, he just didn't really, do enough damage there. He did kill the base, though, which is quite important.
Yeah, I would certainly say so, especially now Crazymoving is sitting on 5 bases again. He has this base up to the top left, in fact, fully operational. He does need to transfer some drones over there, but things are looking pretty safe for him so far. Nice little move here by Grubby to pick off a single Overlord. Every little helps. Deny that information. Deny that supply wherever possible. Grubby's still fine. I mean, he's pretty much mined out his main and his natural, but he's sitting on 2 fully operational mining bases, and his third's about to be back up again. You know what really interests me? Crazymoving has played this entire game on an extremely low drone count. The amount of workers killed for Grubby's only been 7, and yet Crazymoving is sitting only on 60 drones, which is a really, really low amount, honestly. He wants this really large army here.
Yeah, he does, and he's got it at the moment with 35 Hydras out there, switching tech again, depending on what Grubby goes for. Grubby going a lot more for air here. I mean, the usual way to deal with air used to be Corruptors, but because of the new Void Rays doing that +10, +11 now with their +1 attack on their weapons, is that Void Rays demolish Corruptors, so Hydras have to come into play. But Grubby has so many Storms that Storms are going to be able to melt the Hydralisk here, so it's a very difficult army to balance.
Yeah, there's no real doubt about that. Usually against an army with a lot of Hydra, you say, oh, Colossus, you can't do that now with Vipers. That's the problem. But you can use Storm, which, as it turns out, is proving to be very effective. Feedback's going down left, right, and center. All the Vipers torn from the Storm on the left flank is absolutely massive. And yes, there's a lot of Hydralisks, but there are more of everything else. And Grubby is able to smash this army. Admittedly, he does take some pretty hefty losses. He loses Void Rays. He takes a lot of damage there. Most of his Templar were hurt as well. He's now morphing the remaining ones into Archons and is now trying to posture and take out this base in the center. And wow, Spinecrawlers just don't even last against an army like this.
Oh, they do not, but there is about to be 45 more Hydras in the field again. He's just using his economy so well, and he's about to come in, and Grubby only has a handful of storms here, and he could be in a bit of trouble.
He very well could be. Without that mass storm, you'll notice this entire army is going to get absolutely obliterated. There's no way it's going to live. The storm comes in, though, and they're really, really good. It turns out he did have enough storm because the entire Hydralisk force gets obliterated, but the reinforcements come in from the north and crush the army. This game is already insane. Back and forth between Grubby and Crazymoving, this mass Hydra army doing its work. And honestly, now the Templar count down to about 6. And things are getting a little bit more dangerous for Grubby. What I would say, though, in this position is this might be the perfect time for Grubby to actually go Colossus with no Vipers on the field.
Yeah, that's true. That would be a really nice switch here for Grubby, but he's trying to hold the middle of the map. All Zealots being warped in at the same time. He is harassing the top left, trying to get damage done to his opponent's economy. And with good storms, he is defending the middle with Zealot charge as well.
Very, very nice. Looks for the harassment right there with the Overseer in play. It's a little bit more difficult. Crazymoving now is going to have to defend this base. It's going to take far too many hits. Lots of upgrades available here for Grubby. He's just gone +2 shields. He's already got +3 and pretty much everything else. He needs to grab +3 armor, but he's got +3 weapons here. And these Hydralisks, yeah, they are incredibly dangerous. But when there are Storm on the field, you have to watch out because they will die far, far too quickly. Grubby kills the base up to the top left of the map here, and I would really like to see Colossus now from Grubby, honestly. I really would. I don't know if he's aware as to the fact that there's no Vipers on the field here for Crazymoving, but both of these guys have taken a lot of damage, both of them just trying to figure out what kind of moves to make. And funnily enough, Grubby now with a significant economic lead with 82 probes and 5 operational bases.
Yeah, that's right. He's making almost 2,000 minerals per minute in this game compared to his opponent who's just going over 1,000 because he lost that base to the top left. And Grubby has 3 mining bases at the moment compared to his opponent who is down to about 2 at this point. So not so good in terms of economy here for Crazymoving, but he still has quite a fierce army. His army supply is 80 compared to 76 of Grubby's at this current point, but it is a lot of mid-game units, Roach and Hydras, compared to Grubby, who has Archons, he has Storm available, Void Rays, Zealot Charge is going to be incredibly difficult to deal with as well. So Grubby are definitely looking like to be in the lead at this point.
You would certainly think so, although Grubby's army is very, very small. The problem is Crazymoving this entire game has only really done something with his army twice, and he's killed that middle base twice. He's never been able to really get into any of the others. He's not tried to harass, and as a direct result, Grubby's army and his relative size in terms of how big and powerful it is hasn't been all that relevant because Crazymoving has never really brought the full force, the full brunt of the swarm to bear on him. And now, the fact that he's been running with this low drone count and has been able to build this big army is actually coming back to bite him because he doesn't have the economy to compete with Grubby now.
That's right. He is down to a very low drone count. He doesn't have the biggest and best of armies. 3 Ultras are about to try and reinforce to make it stronger, but Grubby's been sat back on a high income for a very long time and has even taken a base to the south. Good micro from Grubby with his units across the map as we can see, but I don't think these Void Rays can be beaten.
The Void Rays are very well upgraded already. They're very, very powerful. As you can see, he's got +2 ship weapon. He's also got +2 shields, which is pretty important. I would have liked to see, obviously, some air armor upgrades there as well, but the nice thing about shields is they affect every unit, so they're a very, very good investment to have, especially against a Zerg player. This army is no doubt going to just come down and crush this Nexus, but it's almost like this Nexus is a little bit of a trick it is a ruse to draw the army away because Grubby is going right for this center base, and there's no way it's going to live. You wouldn't think. It's going to go down pretty quickly if Grubby decides to commit, but a nice quick reaction from Crazymoving. He gets his army in position. A lot of storms going down, but they don't do a lot of damage. Mostly they hit the roaches, not the hydras. So Grubby is forced back once again, and Crazymoving starting to get this big army up again. This is getting a little bit worrying.
That is, and Grubby continues to harass in the top left. Grubby's got a lot of storms available, a lot of high damage output Void Rays here. And when is Grubby going to take the right chance to engage? And I think it's definitely going to be up a ramp like this, because that's when storms will maximize damage if Crazymoving goes into the trap.
Absolutely, but he hasn't done that so far. Crazymoving's been very, very careful. He's taken storms on his ultras, which is not really a big deal. He's just burned the prismatic alignment ability so that it doesn't really do an awful lot. That's not going to be available for quite some time now. He's got another 30 seconds to wait, and what on earth is going on with these High Templar? Was that a bait? If that was a trap, then that was a nice one, because he put them out there saying, that's juicy, come get him. And out comes the army, and it gets hit once again. The Hydra's getting caught out of position. Little mistakes here by Crazymoving, being exploited by Grubby. A storm goes down, it hits the majority of the Hydras. That's absolutely huge. Another storm goes down here. This is devastating. Grubby with an excellent engagement. Crazymoving dropping in supply heavily here. This engagement definitely going in Grubby's favor. However, he pulls back the majority of his army, and Crazymoving is able to take out that rear guard. But honestly, Grubby doesn't really seem to mind so much, because Crazymoving's already taken so much damage. He's ignored this base down to the bottom here, and Grubby is more than prepared to defend it. This reduced army that's going to come at it is nothing that Grubby can't handle, and now Grubby's in such a powerful economic position.
Yeah, if only this base didn't exist down here at the south position, it would be a much more favorable game for Crazymoving here. But because of that, Grubby's able to rebuild Nominee. He's got some good storms going down, and with the amount of gateways he's got behind this, he's just overpowering his opponent.
Oh, that fungal was absolutely beautiful, and it wasn't quite good enough. It's unfortunate. I think he stacked the fungals up there, so he didn't do as much damage. He probably could have killed all of those High Templar if he hadn't been quite so impetuous, but it did not kill him, and Grubby's in a good position now. He's sitting on 8 High Templar. He's got 16 Stalkers, 21 Zealots here. He's looking for another Zealot run by to the top base. Continual denying of mining. The drone count is at 38. Grubby has done huge amounts of economic damage. Crazymoving is not remaxing on drones, and now he's in an awful spot.
And Grubby's about to come in. He pulls his opponent to the top left with a couple of units, and then moves swiftly into the middle and destroys that center base. And that was a nice picking part move there from Grubby. And again, Crazymoving down another base, which he should be mining from.
Yeah, I mean, Crazymoving's now in a really, really bad spot. He's got to take an amazing engagement to really equalize the army. But even if he does that, look at the bank and look at the amount of income that's coming in here from Grubby, who's sitting on 81 drones. Storm, and that is a nasty one indeed. The Infestors come in, they get immediately feedback before they can do anything. And this might very well be the last stand of Crazymoving here. If Grubby engages this properly, the storms are devastating. The HP of the roaches drops like a rock. Huge blink comes in right there and eliminates the remaining roaches. Reinforcements being pulled in by Crazymoving, but nowhere near enough to stop what Grubby's got. And this is the end. GG, ladies and gentlemen, and what a maneuver. What a game there from Grubby. Excellent play. Consistently harassing his opponent, and while Crazymoving had this big army, it's almost like Grubby refused to let him bring the full force of it to bear on his bases.
Yeah, Grubby just played the perfect Protoss later stage. He had the right army composition at almost every fight. He was harassing while expanding and moving across the map diligently at the same time, so excellent play here from Grubby.
Exceptional stuff. Wow, there you go, folks. Hopefully you've enjoyed that show match here as part of the Vengeance event. If you want to watch more content from us, then we do have content on YouTube. You can check my Starcraft channel out over at youtube.com/TotalBiscuit. And Apollo, you've been putting up some excellent Heart of the Swarm content so far.
Yes, thanks. I've been doing a lot of Heart of the Swarm tournaments, tutorial videos for you to improve yourself within Heart of the Swarm. And my YouTube channel is youtube.com/DignitasApollo.
All right, there you go, folks. Hopefully you had a lot of fun with that. We certainly did. That was excellent. Keep, of course, an eye out for Heart of the Swarm. That's coming out in March, and hopefully we'll get to see way more battles like that. That was an absolutely fantastic and dynamic Protoss versus Zerg here on a classic map called Daybreak, which, of course, you should all be familiar with. My name has been TotalBiscuit.
And I'm Apollo.
And we will see you next time.